I had been following Everdream Valley for some time and I was curious to see how the formula similar to my time at Portia would work in this project. Works pretty well, but with a few hiccups. Since you are here, why don't you leave a like, a comment, or even better, a sub for more indie content just like this one. It helps a lot. Thank you. Farming simulators are games structured in a way where we can invest hundreds of hours on them, so it's important that they offer enough activities to prevent us to feel the wear and tear of repetition, and this is where I think the game shines the most. There's so much to do here that the days seem too short in Everdream Valley. The game has a generic storyline in which we play as a city boy who is going to spend the holidays with his grandparents and has to help out on the farm, who thinks it's going to be a boring time but suddenly is an expert in the field of agriculture, cattle raising, carpentry and cooking. My kids are nothing like that. Graphically, in a style close to the 3D cartoon that tends to have a lot of asset placement glitches, but Everdream Valley is quite polished in that regard, with the vast majority of placements working quite well, and even the slopes themselves seem to have been very well taken into account. And the few times I notice how difficult it must be to program with this in mind are these when the animals have to follow us, and that's when you notice that they can't deal well with the toponymy of the game. But nothing serious or worrying. They just spend a few seconds walking one side to the other trying to find a place where they can go up or down a slope. One of the many tags that the game has on Steam is relaxing, and for that to result perfectly, the soundtrack helps a lot, since it transmits, without a shadow of a doubt, a casual, calm and relaxed mood. There is an attempt by the game's creators to guide us through all the experience, something that is very welcome considering the industrial amount of activities that we gradually have access to. Our grandfather, who reminds me of Heidi's grandfather, and our grandmother, who reminds me of Sylvester and Tweety's owner, give us tasks that serve as active tutorials. And this guide accompanies us for hours and hours, even though it is not a faultless system. Since it ends up changing the selected mission several times in an unclear way, and there are even times when it is not quite clear how we should complete the missions. There are a number of moments when we realize that there is an attempt to improve our quality of life with certain actions. For example, to water the crops we just need to run the watering can through them, with no need to water each plantation individually, and harvesting works in exactly the same way. But then there are other situations in which an activity becomes unnecessarily complex. For example, our dog can be a tracker dog, helping us to look for lost animals, but to do so we have to activate the mode by giving him a cookie first. Totally unnecessary step. Something even worse happens with herding, where our dog can function as a sheepdog if we are skilled enough to understand the mechanics of giving him instructions. Something that for me proved to be frustratingly difficult and led me to give up trying to do it. Thankfully, there are other ways to do the same thing. The game has a day and night cycle. If initially we don't do anything at night, from a certain point, even during our sleep, we have activities to do, since we are offered different minigames that sometimes are even essential in the progression of the story or have real consequences in the daytime phase. Although somewhat simplistic, Everdream Valley was one of the games in which I had the most fun building, given the simplicity with which everything works, and the practical way in which it is easy to visualize our project in a 3D environment after understanding the building mechanics. While there isn't a huge diversity of builds, everything works well and allows for cute creations. Just do not expect Dragon Quest builders at this point. There is also an exploration component associated with repairing bridges and, later on, facilitated by the possibility of using horses to accelerate the speed at which we move. Although the world is not rich in environmental diversity, new areas allow us to find new elements that we can then transport to our farm and use them in our daily lives. As expected, there is a merchant in Everdream Valley to whom we can sell or buy items from. Having such a casual game in hands means that our progress is not really blocked at any point. Although the purchase of items is not cheap, it is not difficult to get money either, and we can find everything we need for the farm if we simply explore the world around us. But again, it is so practical to be able to buy some of the stuff that it becomes irresistible not to do it from time to time, of course. Although there is no relationships in the game, Everdream Valley is quite complete in terms of activities, like a Stardew Valley without people annoying you around, with an infinity of activities to entertain you. We can enter the game simply to fish, we can take a day to dedicate ourselves to the crops, another to the animals, and etc, etc, etc. Speaking of animals, I'll mention the curious option of associating each animal with an activity. For example, to shear the sheep there is an associated minigame that, if it initially makes the process dynamic and fun, it quickly becomes boring and repetitive. Personally, I would have left an option to remove those after some time. I also noticed the game could be better optimized, as I always noticed a slight stuttering while playing. Everdream Valley is a great game that managed to capture the essence of farming games like few others. Eliminating the social component was, for me, an excellent option, since it has always been what I least liked about these games, and I believe that, with everything added and weighted, it is an excellent option for fans of the genre, at the same time that it seems to be a beautiful entry point for those who want to experience the game. See you next time, guys. Bye!